The airline, it seemed, had loosened its grip on decorum, ushering in a motley crew. Victor, a titan of industry, scoffed at seat 22C. A woman, swallowed by an old hoodie, was huddled against the window, oblivious to his disdain. A ripple of laughter swept through the cabin, the kind that dismisses a person's entire existence with a single snort. But then the captain's voice, tight with an unease that seeped through the intercom, announced an unidentified warning signal. 2 F-22 Raptors materialized outside, their presence a stark question mark against the sky. The woman in 22C stirred, her eyes opening like doors to a hidden world. "They're here for me," she murmured, the words barely audible. A crackle from the radio. "Night Viper 22, welcome back." Then Air Force One, majestic and unmistakable, dipped its wings in what could only be described as a salute. Her name was Amelia, a name that held no weight for the privileged souls on that flight. At 29, she was a study in unassuming resilience. Dark hair, carelessly bound, a face devoid of artifice, a faded gray hoodie bearing the scars of time, patched jeans whispering tales of journeys unknown, and sneakers, scuffed and worn, their laces frayed like the edges of a forgotten dream. A small fabric tote, clutched as if it were the last tether to her sanity. The flight, a metal tube hurtling from New York to D.C., was a microcosm of societal strata. Businessmen, draped in the armor of bespoke suits, VIPs, drowning in the false comfort of overpriced liquor, flight attendants, their smiles stretched thin over a reservoir of exhaustion. In their eyes, Amelia was an anomaly, a glitch in their perfectly curated reality. Slumped in economy, her tote a silent companion, they saw only a broke, insignificant soul who had somehow slipped through the cracks. Their gazes, sharp and judgmental, were like needles, pricking at her anonymity. As Amelia drifted into sleep, Victor's voice, laced with condescension, cut through the air. Around 45, his suit a billboard for Wall Street excess, he leaned towards Ryan, a finance disciple with hair slicked back like a seal. "Bet she blew her last paycheck on that seat," he sneered, loud enough for Amelia to absorb every syllable. Tara, a digital peacock preening for her thousands of followers, seized the moment, angling her phone. "Guys, look at seat 22C, she chirped, her voice dripping with false concern. "Does she even know where she is?" Total bargain bin vibes. The cabin erupted in laughter, but Amelia remained untouched, her breathing steady, her face serene. A few rows ahead, Elise, a corporate consultant radiating an aura of icy superiority, leaned towards her balding colleague. "I bet she's one of those charity cases the airline lets on for PR," she murmured, her voice carrying like a poisoned dart. A chorus of nods and smirks rippled through the first-class section. "It's almost offensive sitting here with us," Elise added, tossing her hair, her diamond earrings glinting like shards of ice. Amelia's fingers danced near the zipper of her tote, but her gaze remained fixed on the seat ahead. Across the aisle, an older couple, draped in designer labels, engaged in their own private theater of disdain. Linda, her wrist adorned with a diamond bracelet that screamed wealth, whispered to Tom, who was glued to his phone, likely tracking the ebb and flow of his financial empire. "She really doesn't belong here," Linda declared, her voice dripping with honeyed malice. "Probably got on the wrong flight," Tom added, their laughter echoing their shared sense of superiority. Jake, a flight attendant with a buzz cut and a condescending smirk, slammed a plastic cup of water onto Amelia's tray table, the force of the action speaking volumes. She was an unwanted presence, a stain on their pristine canvas. Amelia's hand brushed against the cup, but she didn't open her eyes. The air in the cabin thickened, heavy with unspoken judgments. Asterisk, can you do me a quick favor? Subscribe if the story finds you and tell me where in the world are you watching from. Alright, let's dive back in. As the plane soared through the endless expanse of pale blue, the captain's voice, now laced with genuine alarm, shattered the illusion of calm. "Folks, we've received an unidentified warning signal. Please remain calm." A heartbeat of silence, then pandemonium. Passengers contorted in their seats, their faces pressed against the windows, phones raised to capture the unfolding drama. Is it terrorists? A man shouted, his voice cracking with fear. Panic spread like a virus. Victor clutched his armrest, muttering about lawsuits. Tara zoomed in on the chaos, her voice trembling with excitement. This is wild, you guys. What's happening? Linda gripped Tom's arm, her voice a shaky whisper. We should have taken the jet. Amelia opened her eyes, dark and steady, as if she were intimately familiar with storms far greater than this one. Not terrorists, she said, her voice barely a breath. They're here for me. Victor whirled around, his face flushed with indignation. Who do you think you are, saying things like that? Tara swung her camera towards Amelia, her laughter edged with hysteria. Oh my God. She's lost it. Don't stir trouble, dear. An older woman in a cashmere sweater said, her voice coated in saccharine venom. Just sit down and be quiet. The frat boys in the back, fueled by cheap beer and a thirst for attention, began filming. Crazy lady in 22C. One shouted, triggering a fresh wave of laughter. Jake, his jaw clenched, approached Amelia, his voice dripping with forced authority. Ma'am, stay quiet, or we'll report you to security when we land. The cabin erupted in a cacophony of laughter, turning Amelia into a spectacle. You know, if you're going to make up stories, at least dress the part. A man in a tailored blazer said, gesturing at her hoodie and sneakers as if they were badges of shame. Amelia's fingers tightened around her tote, but her expression remained neutral, her gaze unwavering. The laughter surged, a tidal wave of judgment. Amelia's fingers curled around her tote, but she held her ground. Some people shouldn't be allowed in public. A woman in a bright red coat sneered, her voice laced with venom. It's embarrassing for the rest of us. Amelia adjusted her tote strap, her silence a stark contrast to the noise around her. Suddenly, a guttural roar ripped through the cabin, drowning out the laughter. Two F-22 Raptors, sleek and lethal, sliced through the sky, so close that the rivets on their metallic skin were visible. Screams erupted. Tara's phone shook in her hand, her live stream exploding with comments. This is some action movie stuff, one of the frat boys shouted. Linda's bracelet clinked as she gripped Tom's hand. What is this? What's happening? Victor furiously typed on his phone, drafting a scathing email to the airline. Jake froze, his radio crackling with static. Amelia opened her eyes, her lips parting in a quiet sigh. The jets moved with a hypnotic grace, a rhythm she hadn't felt in years. An old man named George, a veteran with trembling hands, leaned forward, adjusting his glasses. Impossible, he whispered, his voice carrying through the cabin. That's the president's escort squad. Tara swung her camera towards him, but he was focused solely on Amelia, as if recognizing something long lost. The cabin buzzed with a mixture of panic and awe. Mom, why is everyone freaking out about her? A teenage girl asked her mother, pointing at Amelia. She's just some random. This is so stupid. She's probably just confused, honey. Let it go. Her mother replied dismissively. The teenage girl rolled her eyes and snapped a photo of Amelia, captioning it, Weirdo in 22C. Don't tell me you think those fighters are here for you, Victor shouted, seizing the opportunity to reassert his dominance. She thinks she's Top Gun, Ryan added, smirking. The frat boys howled with laughter. Sit down immediately, Jake commanded, his voice laced with desperation. Amelia remained unyielding. She reached into her tote, retrieving a small silver tag, no larger than a keychain. It caught the light, engraved with Night Viper 22. The cabin hadn't noticed it yet, but George's knuckles turned white as he gripped the armrests. The laughter began to subside. Oh, come on, a man in a golf shirt said, his voice dripping with sarcasm. What's next? Are you going to tell us you're a secret agent? Amelia traced the edges of the tag, her gaze fixed on the window. Ignoring Jake, she walked towards the emergency radio, every eye in the cabin following her. This is Night Viper 22C requesting acknowledgement, she said, her voice calm and unwavering. Silence descended upon the cabin. Outside, the F-22s dipped their wings in a sharp salute. Phones clattered to the floor. "My God," George whispered, his voice thick with emotion. "Night Viper was reported Kia 7 years ago." Amelia placed her hand over her heart, her fingers tight around the tag. "This is ridiculous," a journalist declared, her voice unsteady. "You can't just walk onto a plane looking like that and expect us to believe you're some war hero." Amelia remained motionless, her tote hanging loosely at her side. The F-22s remained in formation, silent answers to her accusations. The cabin was in disarray. "This must be staged," a lawyer shouted, her voice trembling. "How could someone dressed like that be a legend?" One of the frat boys muttered. The air crackled with tension. "If you're so important, why does your bag look like it came from a dumpster?" A businessman sneered, pointing at her tote. A few passengers snickered, their doubt rekindled. Amelia's fingers brushed the worn fabric of her tote, but she didn't respond. The laughter weakened as Air Force One pierced through the clouds. "Night Viper 22, welcome back." The radio crackled. "We owe you everything." Gasps filled the cabin. Tara's phone slipped from her grasp. Victor's face paled. George wept. Amelia raised her hand in salute. The commercial plane banked slightly, following Air Force One's lead. "Is it true?" a young mother asked, her voice trembling. "Are you really her?" Amelia turned, a warm smile gracing her lips. "I'm just Amelia, but I flew for you." The cabin had transformed. Laughter was replaced by shame. "If you're Night Viper, why sit here like an ordinary passenger?" a reporter asked, his voice filled with desperation. "I chose to disappear," Amelia replied, her voice steady. "But if the sky calls, I'm still Night Viper." "Ma'am, I didn't know," a flight attendant said, her voice apologetic. "Can I get you anything?" "Water would be nice," Amelia replied. Applause erupted, growing into a roar. Amelia didn't acknowledge the applause. She resumed her seat, her eyes turned to the window. "This doesn't add up," a salesman shouted, his voice cutting through the applause. "If you're some big hero, why didn't you say something earlier? Why let us think?" "I don't owe you my story," Amelia said calmly, silencing him. The cabin's applause swelled again. Years ago, Amelia had been Night Viper, one of the best pilots the Air Force had ever known. She had flown missions to protect Air Force One, taking a hit that should have ended her life. She had walked away from medals, fame, and the life she once knew. Before the jets came, Amelia had reached into her tote, pulling out a creased photo of her and her husband. A brief flash of memory vanishing as quickly as it appeared. "I read about Night Viper in school," a graduate student proclaimed. "She saved the president. They said she died." As the plane landed, the tarmac transformed into a frenzy. Amelia stepped off the plane, ignoring the chaos around her. Victor received a phone call. "Fired," he said, his face ashen. Tara's live stream went viral, but not in the way she had hoped. Rachel tried to backtrack, but it was too late. The frat boys deleted their videos. Jake was reassigned to ground duty. Elise faced the cancellation of her latest deal. Amelia remained oblivious. When her husband arrived, the crowd parted instinctively. He reached Amelia, and she looked up, her expression softening. A security guard approached them. "Ma'am, we have a car waiting for you." Orders from the top. Amelia followed Mike with her husband at her side. She didn't need rescuing. She never had. The headlines screamed about the mystery passenger in 22C. Amelia didn't read any of them. She was already somewhere else, walking into a world that finally saw her. Asterisk for everyone who has ever been looked down upon or judged for their appearance or place in life. This story is for you. You are not invisible. Your worth is not determined by their perceptions. Like Amelia, you carry it quietly and strongly. And remember, you are not alone. Where are you watching from? Leave a comment below and hit follow to walk with me through heartbreak, betrayal, and finally healing.